I think we're good to go. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Judy Irwin, and I'm Senior Manager of Member Communications and Engagement at the Ontario Long-Term Care Association. Thank you for joining us at today's KnowledgeBREAK webinar. We're very pleased to be able to continue to offer these webinars of ongoing education, information, and resources that you can use within your homes and organizations. And to that point, before we get started, I would like to acknowledge our KnowledgeBREAK sponsors and our OLTCA sector champions. They are Plan A, powered by StaffStat, Point Click Care, Book Jane, and Arjo. I'd like to thank them for their partnership and their ongoing work with OLTCA. And our partners make these webinars possible for the entire sector. Joining us today is the team from the Ontario Centres for Learning, Research and Innovation, or the Ontario CLRI for short. The CLRI helps enhance the quality of life and care for residents and team members working and living in LTC. They offer education, training, free resources, and provide solutions to some of the most pressing issues that are facing us, and make these resources readily available to the sector. And many of the resources are free, which is what we're here to talk about today. Today's discussion, we're going to highlight this year's free tools that are available to your home to enhance the quality of life and work. And the presentation is going to include an overview of the e-learning courses and apps, for example, for orientation, for IPAC, for preceptors, as well as new training for team member mental health and ways to strengthen the palliative approach to care. So all very timely topics. I'd also like to note that the CLRI is going to be participating in OLTCA's fall conference this year and hosting some great sessions that you're not going to want to miss. The conference takes place virtually October 24th to 26th, and you can learn more about the full program, which is now online at thisisltc.com. Again, if you registered before September 30th, I know there are great prizes. I think, Donnie, correct me if I'm wrong, one of them is an Apple Watch. You have an option to win, so please do take a look. And with that, I'd like to introduce today's speakers. Please join me in welcoming Sophia Oritz, Director of the CLRI at Briere, Dr. Raquel Meyer, Director of the CLRI at Baycrest, and Audra Thompson-Hale, Director of the CLRI at the Research Institute for Aging. And over to you, Audra, to start today's presentation.
Thank you so much, Judy, for that warm welcome and for the continued support from the OLTCA. And thanks everyone for attending today. As Judy noted, my name is Audra, and I'm joined today by my Ontario CLRI colleagues, Sophie and Raquel, who you will meet shortly. We're here today to share some free virtual tools that can help your long-term care home enhance the quality of life and work for residents and team members. Next slide, please. Before we begin the presentation, we'd like to acknowledge the land on which we reside on and its original stewards. So while we're gathered virtually, the Ontario Centres for Learning, Research and Innovation in Long-Term Care are situated across 3 locations. Our Baycrest site is situated on the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat peoples, and we recognize the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Briere is situated on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation, and the Research Institute for Aging, where I'm presenting from, is situated on the Haldeman Tract, land that was granted to the Haudenosaunee of the Six Nations of the Grand River, and are within the territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. So we are presenting to all of you today who are likely spread out across the province, so you may live and work on different territories. We encourage you to reflect on the land on which you are located and be reminded that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of the Indigenous people. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about us. Judy did a great job at giving a wonderful overview. From us, we are funded by the Ministry of Long-Term Care to coordinate the outreach to long-term care homes in the province. As mentioned in our land acknowledgement, we are spread across 3 sites: the Baycrest Health Science site in Toronto, which is managed by my co-presenter Raquel Meyer, The Bruyere site in Ottawa is managed by my other co-presenter, Sophie Oroz, and I manage the Research Institute for Aging site, which is located in Waterloo. And while we are spread, while our program is situated across 3 host organizations, we've developed a single program that really capitalizes on the expertise of our host site organizations, and we present ourselves as one program to the Ontario long-term care homes and sector. Next slide, please. So what do we do? Really, the Ontario CLRI is a resource for the long-term care sector. We provide training, education, we share research and innovation and identify and develop resources for long-term care. One thing that we think is unique about us is that we do all this in collaboration with long-term care. So we are working alongside all of you to make sure that what we develop fits your needs. Our ultimate goal is to enhance the health and well-being of the people who live and work in long-term care. Next slide, please. So today, our presentation, we're back again this fall, as we were last year, to provide you an overview of some of the work we have on offer, all of which you can access today for free. So we will be talking about what CLRI resources, tools, training, opportunities you can access, what the key elements or features of the offerings include, and where to find the resources and tools. And so we've carved out a top 10, if you will, but please know that there are a lot of other great resources that you can access online through our CLRI site, which we'll provide at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. So we thought we'd start today by sharing a little bit about the PSW Education Fund that is coordinated through the RAA site. Next slide, please. So the PSW Education Fund is something that we've been running for several years. It is a fund that is provided by the Ministry of Long-Term Care and provides continued education and professional development for not only PSWs, as its title suggests, but any other team members that are interacting directly with residents working in long-term care. The fund, the way it works is that the fund covers costs of education, training, tuition for team members to attend, and also provides backfill dollars to the homes after team members participate in training. So this year, we've been very fortunate to expand the scope of our offerings, and team members can now participate in 4 different virtual opportunities. So the opportunities that exist are all open right now. Programming goes from now until March 2023. And training opportunities include access to excellence in resident-centered care, living the dementia journey, the working mind, and through our LIFA program. So we will go to the next slide and I'll start telling you a little bit about each of these programs, starting with our ERCC program. So ERCC provides personal support workers, again, and any other team members that are interacting with residents with practical skills in person-centered care. The course has been around for a few years now and was developed by Conestoga College and the Research Institute for Aging. It's offered virtually in a 7-hour virtual workshop format and is really, the outcomes are really to increase team member self-confidence, job satisfaction, and morale. So when thinking of retention strategies, this might be a good fit for some of you. The course is facilitated live by Conestoga College instructors, and you can see the topics of focus on this slide here. Next slide, please. Thank you. The second opportunity that we started offering last year through the fund is called Living the Dementia Journey, which we call LDJ. And this is an award-winning evidence-informed training program for those who support people living with dementia. The workshop is facilitated by RAA team members, trained facilitators, in an 8-hour session. And participants are there to gain awareness and understanding that changes not only the way they view dementia, but also improve the way they support people living with it. So this training is broken into 6 modules, and participants learn to increase their understanding of dementia, enhance their skills in relationship building to support individuals with compassion and respect. They'll learn strategies to recognize, interpret, and respond to personal expressions. And they'll also learn a little bit about how to tackle boredom and loneliness and helplessness by creating opportunities for meaning, purpose, and growth. Next slide, please. Thanks again. So this year we are really excited to offer a new program. So this is the 3rd opportunity within the PSW Education Fund. We decided to offer the Working Mind based on feedback from the past few years that we've been hearing from the long-term care sector related to the importance of mental health and wellness, and really thinking about taking care of team members working in long-term care. And so as a result, we have included this new program that's called the Working Mind. And again, like the other 2 programs, this is a virtual training opportunity that's facilitated by the Mental Health Commission of Canada. And this program focuses on helping those working in long-term care to better understand mental health, to recognize signs and indicators of mental health, and to reduce the stigma and change the attitudes towards mental health. All of this in an effort to improve workplace wellness and create stronger and more resilient team members. This training has 2 options. The first option is open right now. It's a 7-hour course, again, facilitated by the Mental Health Commission, and it's geared toward leadership and management in the long-term care home. So this course is open first because the commission, the best practices are that the leadership has a bit of an understanding of the components involved before team members in their home are open to participate in the training. So right now that leadership stream is open. And then later in the fall, early winter, we will be opening a team member version, which is a little bit shorter. And this is offered to those PSWs, recreation therapists, anyone, again, with those direct interactions with the. Again, like the other trainings, these are delivered virtually. The facilitators are from the Mental Health Commission, and they're skilled in creating safe spaces for learning, particularly with regard to this topic, which may be a little more sensitive than others. So I'll ask Donnie to switch to the next slide and just turn it over to Raquel to speak for a moment about the 4th offering within the fund.
Sure. Thank you, Audra. So the 4th training opportunity, the final one we're talking about today in terms of the PSW fund, is access to virtual onboarding for your new PSW and nursing team members through our LIFA app, which is our Learning Interprofessionally Healthcare Accelerator. And essentially, it's an innovative way of learning that offers a large number of simulation and learning activities in a serious game world. And it offers your new hires a chance to practice safely, caring for virtual residents in up to 24 care scenarios, and they can receive instant feedback about their decision-making and performance in those care scenarios. So this is offered through our Baycrest site. Content includes some of the fundamentals about long-term care, activities of daily living, common care experiences and conditions, and also some nursing-specific components related to assessment and medication management. So we have free virtual seats available to all Ontario long-term care homes. You can easily sign up for virtual packages, 12 to 14 hours for PSWs and nurses. And we also have a new 8-hour micro-credential. It's obviously shorter, that's available as well. And once you sign learners up, they can participate at their own pace or over time to complete the learning packages. And it's basically self-directed online games, simulations, e-learning, all packaged to develop kind of deeper competencies in long-term care specialization. And like the other opportunities within the PSW fund, homes will receive backfill dollars for the times participants spend in LIFA training, and provided they get to a certain level in the game. So I will,
Raquel?
with that, turn it back to Audra. Next slide.
Thanks, Raquel. So as noted, these 4 offerings, enrollment is currently open. So how to sign up is to head over to the website, which is pswfundltc.ca, which we can probably put in the chat in a few moments. Each program, with the exception of LIFA, the first 3 programs that were noted, we have 1 to 3 sessions weekly on offer. So the homes sign up first, and then they're able to forward the information to their team members to sign up. We will be adding the odd evening or Saturday session in an effort to catch those team members that could participate at that time. I do see a comment in the chat about French. We are able to offer the Working Mind in French at this time, but the other 2 programs right now are English only, although I will be speaking to some other French resources momentarily that hopefully will help you out. So next slide, please. So after completing any of these trainings that we've just noted, homes will be reimbursed for the hours their team members spent in the training once they've completed it. Participants also receive a certificate for their own professional use. And really our hope is that the training will enhance the care that they're providing to residents. Next slide, please. So we're going to move away from the PSW Education Fund and share a little bit about our IPAC e-learning series. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we all heard throughout the pandemic and continue to hear throughout the pandemic that IPAC is very important for all of us and in long-term care as well. So, in constant conversations about this throughout the pandemic, we decided to build a long-term care specific IPAC series that is housed for free in our Ontario CLRI e-learning hub. We have been working on these courses for about 1.5 years. They were built based on the topic areas that were identified by the long-term care sector and have all been created with subject matter expert input, as well as the frontline team member feedback, as they are the end users. So right now we have a variety of courses available, and we're currently working on some companion resources that will accompany these. Next slide, please. So on this slide here, you can see today the courses that you can access. So we have the initial IPAC Core Concept course that's been available for about 1 year now. It's called Breaking the Chain of Transmission. And then you can see courses 2 through 6 on this slide are all accessible free on the e-learning hub. They're also available in Surge Learning for those of you that access your education there. And we have a 7th course here that is under development and should be coming out within the next few months related to IPAC while caring for residents living with dementia. All of the courses are between 20 to 40 minutes each, and they are offered in English and French. So hopefully that helps some of you out. Next slide, please. Okay, so some other courses that you can find on our e-learning hub are related to orientation. So we've recently started working on a new series related to mandatory training and orientation. So I'll give you a little bit of insight into that. So we've been working on these courses over the last little while at the RAA site in partnership with Schlegel Villages. These education orientation courses provide education for new team members during the orientation process, but they can also be used for existing team members during their annual training. They provide scenario-based learning to ensure that learners have the knowledge and skills they need to assist the people they support, and they're in line with the Ministry of Long-Term Care training guidelines. You can see that they are made a little bit shorter in length to the IPAC courses, and this is because we're hoping that that makes it more feasible for homes to integrate into their orientation practices. Next slide, please. So like the IPAC courses, these have been developed using those subject matter experts and getting team member engagement and feedback. We currently have 3 courses available. Prevention of falls in long-term care. There are 2 versions, clinical and non-clinical, and preventing, recognizing, and reporting abuse and neglect in long-term care is also available. You can see we have a long list of coming soon. We know these are topics, and so we are working on these and hoping that they will continue to roll out over the next few months as they become available. Next slide, please. And just finally, if the orientation courses, if you wanted to build onto that, or we're looking for shorter resources, we do also have our long-term care orientation website that provides some practical, shorter, curated materials that might be applicable to help you with your orientation and onboarding process for team members, students, volunteers, etc. And I will turn it over to my colleague, Sophie.
Thank you, Audra. The first set of opportunities I'm going to talk about is related to strengthening a palliative approach to care. And this is coordinated through the BREAK site of the Ontario CLRI. Next slide, please. Our long-standing Communication at the End of Life Training Fund is actually a collection of ministry-funded resources related to palliative care. This year, your home and your team can take advantage of the fund in 2 ways. There is training for individuals, and separately, we also offer support for leaders and their whole team to change palliative care practices. Just as for the PSW Training Fund, the COL Fund also covers the cost of the tuition and coaching, as well as backfill. Next slide, please. Let's start with the training available for individual team members. Last year, more than 630 nurses, PSWs, directors of care, food service workers, recreation therapists, and all other types of members of the interprofessional long-term care team took advantage of this training, which is now called All in Palliative Care, the Team Approach to Long-Term Care. This is an 8-hour-long training, which is based on scenarios from the long-term care sector. It was originally developed with Algonquin College and was revised for virtual delivery with the help of the University of Ottawa, content experts, as well as workers who currently work in long-term care. The training aims to change the way we communicate about palliative care, change the way we support palliative care, explains why cultural humility is important when delivering palliative care, and ultimately determine ways each and every member of the long-term care team can contribute to a grief-friendly work environment, because this is one of the things that we heard during the pandemic, that the work environment needs to be more welcoming to discuss team members' grief. Applications for the fall are now closed, but we will offer more training in January and February in both English and French. And there was a question earlier about on the chat about how the virtual delivery happens in the context of a COL. We do require that there is individual computer available for each learner. But all the details are on the application form. Next slide, please. A key element of the all-in training is the COL eLearning series, but anyone who want can take these on their own without participating in the all-in training. These are 3 20-minute long courses, and each e-learning helps to refresh knowledge about or develop skills in palliative care. Again, the modules offer long-term care specific scenario-based learning and are available in French and English, both on the CLRI e-learning platform and on Search Learning. Next slide, please. The second component of this year's COL Training Fund supports teams to improve their palliative care program. Together with key regional and provincial experts and resources, the CLRI offers intensive coaching and education. I listed some of the partners that we work with to co-deliver this component. For example, OPCN, Champlain Hospice Palliative Care Network, and the regional palliative care programs. The goal is to improve resident quality of life, support families during the illness of their loved ones and during bereavement, provide team members support and education, support long-term care homes in the quality improvement of palliative care, and as they work to meet the new Long-Term Care Act requirements related to palliative care. Next slide, please. This slide outlines the timeline of this year's collaborative project and expectations of the home's participation, how much time each step would take. But this is a very flexible approach. It starts with a comprehensive self-assessment, and based on that and the priorities and abilities your home identifies, we provide coaching and training. Last year, we supported 43 homes, and the feedback has been excellent. Next slide, please. Another area where we have lots of tools to offer to your teams is supporting equity, diversity, and inclusion. Next slide, please. This has been a project that has been ongoing since 2017. This year we reached a major milestone. In April, we ran a half-day virtual forum that was attended by more than 190 people live. We are very proud of this accomplishment. And as the next slide shows, we would certainly like to acknowledge the involvement and long-standing involvement of the many partners who made this possible. Because we have an Ontario CLRI EDI advisory committee, and committee members come from across the sector, including residents, and specifically would like to acknowledge OLTC's contribution over the years. Next slide, please. So what are the diversity tools available for you on your journey towards becoming more inclusive? We have a number of tools, and as always, for the Ontario CLRIs, these resources are tailored to the LTC context. They support resident as well as team member diversity. They were co-developed with sector partners and were developed with the knowledge that, that experiences are influenced by individual circumstances, including language, ability, race, ethnicity, religion, spirituality, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic status. So as you can see, we interpret diversity in the broadest possible way. The Embracing Diversity Toolkit is available in English and French since 2020. The toolkit offers practical steps on how to nurture affirming communities. It highlights promising practices and stories from Ontario long-term care homes, and there is a series of posters to complement the toolkit. We have continued to maintain and update our very popular diversity and inclusion calendar. Now it comes in different formats and highlights dates with special meaning for the diverse population that live, work, and visit long-term care homes. And we have had glowing feedback from primarily recreation therapy colleagues and departments, but have been used by a broad range of long-term care homes team members. And as I mentioned, recently we added lots of resources that were developed for the allied for Inclusivity in Long-Term Care Forum in April. Next slide. Moving forward, anyone from your team can sign up for the new quarterly EDI focused newsletter. And this November, we are also starting an EDI in long-term care community of practice. Please keep an eye out on the CLRI newsletter, because that's where we are going to share details on how to sign up for the community of practice. Next slide, please. And talking about community of practice, the last section for the BREAK team is where I'm going to highlight is the social workers, social service workers community of practice. Next slide. In 2020, when the first wave of the pandemic hit the world, CLRI and Family Councils Ontario began brainstorming about ways to support social workers and social service workers in long-term care so that they feel less isolated and to encourage dialogue. The community of practice meets virtually each month, and it is facilitated collaboratively with Family Councils Ontario. It brings together social workers and social service workers from the long-term care homes across the province, and they talk about timely and relevant practice issues with their peers. This is a space for resource sharing and mutual support. We are now developing, but in addition, we are now developing a web-based platform for resource sharing and dialogue among members in between meetings. The next slide shows the various topics that have been covered over the time. The first one is really related to social work and social work service practice. Definitely, unavoidably, and completely understandably, a lot of conversation around COVID-19 and challenges of supporting residents and their care partners. There are ethical dilemmas that are frequently discussed, and a lot of equity issues. And I put specific and more details down below of each of these main themes, because I'm hoping that you are going to take these slides and share with your social work, social service colleagues, and they can look at more details there. Next slide. Opportunities for the future. Please encourage your social worker to join the community of practice. We are also embarking on a research project with the Carleton University researchers, because we find that really there is very limited understanding on the role of social workers and social services in long-term care. And so the research is going to be looking at clarifying and defining the scope of practice and job description that are specific to long-term care in Canada. We think it's extremely important because with the forthcoming national standards implementation and the new Long-Term Care Act, there are opportunities to align and understand better how social workers and social service workers can support the change within the sector. Next slide. So once again, please encourage your colleagues to join the community of practice. It's completely voluntary and free. It runs once a month for 1 hour, and it's facilitated. So there is discussion, there are learning, there are speakers who come in, but really there's a lot of peer support. And please encourage them to explore these resources that are listed here, because they are specifically curated by the community practice members for their own colleagues. Feel free to connect with the Ontario CLRI if you would like to learn more. And I'll pass it over to Raquel.
Great. Thank you, Sophie. All right, we want to talk about our preceptoring program, Preceptor Resource and Education Program for Long-Term Care. And specifically, we'd like to talk to you about education. And we're getting through this presentation. We're already on number 7. Okay, next slide, please. Great. So as part of the broader PrEP program that is available to all long-term care homes in Ontario, today, we wanted to highlight preceptor education, because we've been asked, what does it look like? And so today I'm just going to speak to you a little bit about the education component itself. So we recognize and have kind of a deep understanding that there are unique needs and vulnerabilities when it comes to students and team members in long-term care. And so our goal was really to create a practical, strength-based education solution that is tailored to and highly relevant to the needs and lived experiences of PSWs and nurses in long-term care. And our goal is really to welcome and support new preceptors, and in turn support and welcome new students. And so we recognize that everyone needs to have a sense of purpose, belonging, achievement, and security in order to perform well in their role. And what we've created is something that doesn't reinvent the wheel. So we've built on existing resources, but we also attended to the unique needs of those in long-term care. And what we will show you on the next slide is the 7-hour paid e-learning package that is available to new preceptors. Next slide. So here you can see that we have stacked a 3-part long-term care specific e-learning experience on top of an existing program that was created for healthcare preceptors in all disciplines through the University of Western Ontario and Fanshawe College, who graciously partnered with us. They have a preceptor education program called PEP, and we are building on some of the work that they've done, where they have looked at equity and diversity, how to develop learning objectives, how to support clinical reasoning, promote reflective practice, engage in feedback and evaluation, and successfully navigate conflict. Those are things that every preceptor, regardless of discipline, can benefit from having skills in this area. And then we stacked on top of that, and the first thing that people will receive is really about long-term care. So we created 3 short e-modules that are helping people to get ready for their clinical experience, their clinical placement experience, helping preceptors identify 5 key areas of knowledge that they might wish to focus on and support in long-term care when it comes to age-related and health condition changes in older adults, dementia care and responsive behaviors or personal expressions, person-centered care, the nature of teamwork in long-term care, as well as supporting inclusion in long-term care. And so this is what the 7-hour package looks like, and it is now available, and it is shortly coming to you also in French. All right, Donnie, let's go to the next slide. Great. So let's talk a little bit about the Ontario Universal Resource App for Long-Term Care. Next slide. In brief, this is quick and easy access to information to do your job well in long-term care. We have expanded from PSW and nurse to include resident support aides, food service workers, and social workers as well. And we are exploring whether how we can start to include therapeutic recreation roles as well. It's free. It's like a digital pocket card. So if you've stopped using paper and cheat sheets in your pockets, whether you have students with you or whether you have team members that like to do that, this is an alternative. It's free, it's curated, the resources are evidence-based. It's designed to be short and sweet, things that you would need while you're in the neighborhood providing care. So not long, very short videos, short reminders. We welcome your suggestions about additional long-term care topics or standards of care, and it's available on the Google Play and Apple stores. Okay, next slide. We wanted to update you about Team Essentials e-learning. So Team Essentials, next slide, has traditionally been delivered as a workshop program, mainly for central Toronto areas. And then we started shifting to online. And with COVID, of course, that was a real push to make sure that everything was available online. So 3 workshops are now available, and they're actually on Surge Learning. For those of you that use Surge, it's integrated, and so you can directly assign these courses in the Surge platform. The goal really of Team Essentials is to encourage team members to support each other in being curious, proactive, to appreciate critical thinking, to communicate and collaborate better, and to maintain kind of that positive solution-focused team response. And we've done this in 3 priority areas, including preventing acute deterioration, coordinating care for responsive behaviors, and engaging families in care. Okay, we will share the app name in a short minute. Once I stop talking, I can do that. You'll have the link in the slides, of course. Next slide for behavioral support rounds. So these are offered through Ontario Telehealth. They are designed for all health team members, but also for your students. They're monthly, and they provide a learning forum where we review leading practices and how to assess and manage challenging responsive behaviors or personal expressions, as shown by individuals living with dementia. It's available through Zoom, and the rounds are co-sponsored by the Baycrest Toronto Central LIN, Behavior Support for Seniors program, as well as the Baycrest Ontario CLRI. If you would like to join us this week, join us this week. Our mental health and community partners are going to explore the topic of providing care that is trauma informed. So understanding it, describing the principles of trauma informed care, and also understanding what that looks like across the lifespan. All right, let's go to the next slide. Oh, it shows you all of that. So you have that for your records, sorry. Next slide. So here are some of the links that you'll want to just keep in mind. Our website is a great place to start, and you can connect with us through that. There's also funding opportunities that we describe online. And of course, we have our eLearning hub that you can connect through directly from our website, as well as you can find us in Surge Learning now. Next slide. Thanks, Donnie. You did a great job on this slide. That's very fancy. So I guess we want to encourage you to come join us. We are going to be at the This is Long-Term Care Conference. As you can see, we have 6 offerings. Whether you'd like to focus in on EDI, families as partners in care, growing your own PSWs through a living classroom, or understanding more about the Preceptor Resource and Education Program, PREP, for long-term care. We are also going to share with you some amazing results from our Specialized Educator Certificate in Long-Term Care, which was very well received. We have about 40 people in the pilot. And also, we're going to be doing more of a show and tell about LIFA and what that looks like for new and future team members, because it's also available for students. And we'll be doing a bit of a show and tell there. Thank you. Donnie, unless you guys want to add something. Okay, so multiple ways to connect with us, and we encourage you to subscribe to our e-newsletter. We're judicious in the number of emails that we send out to you. We don't want to swamp you, but we do want to apprise you of new and emerging opportunities for your home and your teams. Next slide.
Thanks very much, everyone, for that great presentation. I find whenever I hear all the things that you have on offer, it's amazing what you've put together, often on very short notice to pivot to the sector's needs. And I just want to thank you, because I know there's a great deal of work that goes on behind the scenes to make that happen. It's very timely. We had a couple of logistical questions from our listeners and today, and one of them is about whether or not you can fully participate in all your offerings if you don't have a camera, or if you need to participate by phone. Is that an option?
I can take this one. I think it depends on the option on offer for those within the PSW Education Fund. We, especially due to the sensitive nature of some of the topics, particularly the mental health program, we do ask that people have their own computer. Cameras aren't necessary, but they do need to be able to engage in the chat features and using the speaker as well. So calling in might not, you need to see the materials that are on offer as well. So computer needed, camera not necessarily.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Audra. And Raquel has put in the chat as well that for LIPA, there's no camera needed either. Question was answered in the chat, but just to bring it up again, is there a limit on the number of PSWs who can participate in a home?
So again, it depends on the session that we're offering, but I can say we have quite a bit of capacity. So if you would like to train 50 people, please go and register and sign up your 50 people. We have some caps, but they're based on the size of the home registering. So it's not as clear cut, like a straight answer, but we do have plenty of capacity right now. So if that's helpful, please head there and sign up.
Thanks, Audra. And if there are any specific questions, home specific, I'm sure they can reach out to you by email for clarification. You did reference the learning platforms as well. A question about whether the different offerings are integrated with Surge or Relias or other learning platforms that are currently used in the homes. Would that be you, Audra?
Sure. Or Sophie, I think you typed an answer, but happy to speak to it. Right now, our intent was to only house them on our CLRI LearnDash system for free, but we are piloting in Surge right now because we know a large portion of the sector uses Surge. Right now, we don't have plans to extend that. We need to, there's a lot of logistical pieces to consider before we would open it up and have them housed elsewhere. So right now, they're just available in 2 spots, our platform and Surge Learning.
Thank you. And we had questions about how the new palliative program integrates with the palliative committees in homes and how they can sort of tap into those resources. Also, Sophia, you'd mentioned you had great feedback from some of the homes where you had trialed the resources, and wondered if you could share some of that, what people learned that they might previously not have known.
Thank you. It just started bucketing down in Ottawa, so there might be some background noise. So we find that homes where they have a palliative team or a palliative committee, they are often more ready to start the collaborative project, which starts with a self assessment, a very comprehensive self-assessment that could be facilitated if that's of interest to the home. And so based on that self-assessment, they can then pick their own priorities. And so when the team that comes together to do the self-assessment includes families or care partners, that's even leading to a much richer conversation. So that's the first thing that they find and have provided feedback on, is that interprofessional and multi-stakeholder discussion around looking at the palliative approaches that are used in the palliative program in the home as exists it's the first step of learning that they benefit from. And then when there is a debrief session about, okay, so these are what you currently have, where are your priorities, and identifying those priorities, and then picking the ones that are feasible with the home's current resources and the reality of the pandemic. That's another stage, because we take a very robust change management and quality improvement approach. And so, we talk about what are the smart indicators that you're going to follow, and how would you know that you're on the right track? How would you evaluate your progress? and then so that's the second stage of learning, and then definitely as they actually implement those priorities that they picked, then this could include learning opportunities, be it the all-in training or something that the regional palliative care program would deliver, or we have designed training sessions even that target care partners if the home decided that they would like to improve the knowledge or engage more their family councils. We have delivered in collaboration with our partners training on that. So this deeper dive is definitely all helping the homes to reflect on palliative approaches as part of person-centered care. And that is definitely what the new legislation requires, that homes look at palliative approaches as part of their person-centered care approach and as a combination of clinical as well as quality of life concerns. And that's all of that is definitely covered by the training and coaching.
Thanks, Sophia. It sounds like there's a core program that then is adapted for the specifics of each home and how far they are able to implement it.
Yes, yeah, I would like to reiterate that all of the Ontario CLRI programming, we try to make it as well, always long-term care specific, but really recognizing the capacities that the sector has for learning, and we have found great thirst and engagement for continued improvement for learning. And so our collection of offering can range as short as a 20-minute e-learning module or course all the way to deeper engagement through a full day learning or coaching over several months. So really, we are there to meet the homes and the teams and the individuals at the capacity that they have.
Thanks, Sophia. I think that came through really loud and clear through each presentation, that you had fine-tuned the presentations to a certain length and to tailor it to what you'd had feedback from homes on what they could accommodate for what team members could accommodate. So that's great. Just one other question on the palliative, how you're collaborating with the Ontario Palliative Care Network, just wondering how that relationship works.
Thank you. So we definitely are very aware and knowledgeable about all the amazing resources that are available in the province. And so we are very actively working on aligning our resources with theirs, and the co-delivery of the coaching and training is one example. And then the other one is working with OPCN, because OPCN represents the provincial content expertise and setting the directions. And so all of our work that we design is based on the OPCN recommendations and frameworks and directions that they set. So I just wanted to reiterate that absolutely we work very, very closely with OPCN, and they are great experts in this space. And so we are grateful for their guidance.
Thank you, Sophia. We've got a question on the which courses fit the criteria for mandatory training of new team members. I think you did touch on that in your presentation. I'm not sure whether the answer is all or selected ones, so I'll open it to the three of you to respond.
Sure. Yeah, if you look back to the slides, the majority of the courses on the slide on orientation should fit within the topics of mandatory training. We know that I think were 14 topics, and then we tried to narrow them down into what we thought was most needed. So I would urge you to take a look at those, and there's outlines in the LearnDash system for the courses that are there already to review those and see if they fit your requirements.
Thanks, Audra. And a final question about LIPA and whether or not it complements new hire onboarding and whether it's available to students as well.
Thanks, Judy. So LIFA and the accelerator onboarding packages are really designed to support your new hires coming in who have limited knowledge about long-term care. So I know in the good days before COVID, you might, if you had enough staffing, have people buddied up as they came into your organization, and they would job shadow people and have a chance to acclimatize a little bit to the sector to the setting before you launch them into care. And I know with COVID that changed dramatically, and we were so stretched that things just happened quickly and people had to get onboarded differently. So if you're looking for like a virtual preceptor, if you will, or a virtual buddy for your new hires, this is a chance to let them get into a safe space and to actually practice in up to 24 care scenarios that are quite common in long-term care, and receive some feedback about how they're performing or things they would be encouraged to think about, or resources we would encourage them to review. And so you can think about it as like a virtual buddy system in a way. So that can be really helpful, perhaps, to homes with new hires. The other way is if you would like your students that are coming into your home to just be a little bit more prepared for what is long-term care, who lives here, and to get over some of their, natural fears about perhaps working with older adults or being in a long-term care setting. LIFA student packages are designed to really introduce and welcome students to the field. We start off, for example, in the year 1 package with age-related changes and things like that. Just some of the basics that people need to know as they enter. And we've been very mindful about the vulnerabilities of students and the concerns that they might have. And we've tried to create welcoming, inspiring, and innovative education to sort of welcome them into the field. And so it's a nice way if you can negotiate with your educational partner to say there are free seats available in LIFA, and we'd like that to be a prerequisite to your students coming in. Most of the activities are simulation based. And so I'm sure that is helpful for educational institutions or organizations to understand. And so you could use that to sort of help your preceptors and help students have a better experience as they come into long-term care.
I love the language of virtual buddy system. I think that will resonate with the students very much too when it's presented to them like that. So thank you. We're coming up on the end of the hour, and I would very much like to thank our speakers today for presenting this great information. I know that I'm sure everyone on the call does subscribe to your newsletter, but if for some chance you don't, please be sure to do so that you can get updates on registration timelines and when new offerings come available. It's a great resource and gives you all the information that you need. I'd also like to thank our sponsors again who made today's session possible. That is Plan A, powered by StaffStat, Point Click Care, Bookjane, and Arjo. Great sector champions, all of them, to help us be able to communicate regularly with the sector like this. Thank you all for joining us today. And if you're like me, you will be busy. I've already downloaded the app and making sure I can explore all the different offerings that are there as well. So thank you, everyone, and have a good day.